Hi friends, today I want to show you a few of my easiest flowers to paint. I've painted these a lot and I think they are so much fun, and these are even a good daily practice for you. So today I'm actually playing with this Dugato little round. This is actually a very small number 4 paintbrush. I typically am using my Princeton. I had these in my dozens and dozens of paintbrushes and thought I might play with this. I'm also using a cold press 140 pound. This is Stonehenge. Somebody gifted this to me for Christmas, so I thought I would play with that. So go ahead and grab your paintbrush. I've got my 2 containers of water, my paper towel, my spray bottle to activate my paints. And today I will be using my Winsor Newton paints. So let's go ahead and get started. This is going to be kind of interesting because I usually use twice this size of brush. I use an 8 for the most part. And today I'm playing with this little 4. So let's see how this goes. So these flowers, I thought I'm going to take my time showing them to you. The hardest one is probably going to be the Peony, which I paint dozens and dozens of those, and I absolutely love them. So the first one we're going to paint is just a simple little, to be honest, I'm not even sure what all these are. This is like just a little, a wildflower. I see these when I go out hiking a lot. So I'm somewhat using the side of my brush here, and I'm going to just start right here, kind of press down the side of my brush, and I'm just repeating this. All of my petals are going towards the inside of my flower. So I'm just really using the side of my brush to make these brush strokes. Now, a simple little brush stroke, if you want to add some interest, is kind of a side shot. And what I do is I take the tip of my brush very lightly, start going around, press in, and come back up. And it kind of adds this element of, it's kind of on its side. So I thought that was kind of fun. I'm going to do another one right here. Same exact things. I'm just really bringing everything back to the center, using the side of my brush and then coming in with another little brush stroke like so. And then I'm going in with a little bit more of my Quin Magenta, and while this is wet, I'm just tapping in and letting that kind of spread. So let's just do another one here, side of my brush, same brush strokes over and over. Okay. Just like so. And you could do, really a whole page of these. I've done that before, and they're very pretty. Now I'm going to go in while they're wet because I love wet in wet. And I'm going to use a light version of this green. And I'm just going to go in very lightly pressing and create some stems here. Okay, so what an easy little flower. You could go in and just dab in with the tip of your brush. Some little leaves, keep it easy. Have them just poking out here and there. You could even do one like so. Okay, just for some interest here. So there you have this beautiful little bouquet of wildflowers. Now once this dries, I will go in and just touch the tip with either yellow or black for the center of those. So let's go on to another flower. I love adding really unique little things inside of my flower arrangements. So I think berries is always fun. I'm going to use my Cad Orange, Winsor Cad Orange, and I'm just going to create some little berries here. So I'm just literally drawing little circles, just like so. You can leave some white in there if you like that. Okay, just touching in with some more. And then I'm actually going to also add in some pink berries. Let's get a little bit of Quin Magenta in here because I just love this color. Put those in there too. And these are just an easy little addition to any of your flowers that you're already painting. Okay. And now I'll go in. I might come back when this dries. Now see how this kind of mixed in there? I don't really care for that. So I take a dry brush and I just pick it up. All right. So there's not really an ability to paint over necessarily or erase in watercolors, but you can certainly do that. Picking up, it's actually called lifting with a dry brush. So now I'm going into my green. This is sap green. And I do like when I touch into these for that green to mix with the berry. I think that's really pretty. Just like that. So how pretty would those be coming out of your flowers? I think that's really easy and fun. No stress. Okay, and you could even go in there and add some little grassy additions if you wanted to. You don't have to. So the next little flower, again, I'm not even sure what any of these are called. I just kind of paint what I like. So this is another one I like. I'm going to do this one in this turquoisey blue Winsor Newton. And I'm going to dab them in. So that's a little too dark for me. So I'm going to wet that a bit. And these are just dabbing. I'm just pressing into the tip and the body of my brush. And I'm just making these fun little flowers, just like that. And you could have these coming out any place in your flowers. Now I am going to go back in and take a darker value, which means more paint, and make some darker ones just for interest. Okay, so we have some dark, some light, and now while it's wet, I will go in with this tiny brush, which I'm actually enjoying. I don't usually paint tiny things. I usually paint kind of big. And I'm just going to create some very thin, using very light pressure with the tip of my brush, going down, connecting these all. I do want the green to kind of spread into that paint. I think that's pretty, just like that. Okay, so another just pretty way to add some interest to your painting. Let's see, another one would be kind of like a lavender, which I've done before, but this is maybe an easier version of it. So I'm going to get a watered down version of that value. And again, I'm using this dabbing, just pushing down with the tip of my brush. If you guys play with some brushes, you will find a lot of times these brushes do all the work for you. They create a leaf, a petal, a stem without you having to do anything. So I'm going to create a version of a lavender plant, and I'm just tapping in. Okay, just like that. Just making these little, I call them dabs. Now, one thing I might do is go in once this dries with a little bit darker and just add some darker ones. But while this is wet, I'm going to go in, wash my brush, and add the green because I like the green to blend in. Now, if that feels a little too wet, I can take my brush after I put it into the green and just tap off some excess water so I don't end up with this big mess. So just drawing a line here. Look how pretty. Not pretty and so easy. Okay, so I noticed the lavender in my yard has a lot of little green in between the flowers. So I want to get that in here, just like so. But you know, I really encourage you to paint what makes sense to you. If I wanted it to be perfect, I would probably just buy a picture. And then my lavender has these long kind of leaves that grow out. So there you go. So there's some pretty lavender, and look how beautiful when it mixes with the purple. I think that's really, really pretty. So the next one is just a little 4 or 5 petal leaf, flower that you can do. Let's see, I want to create, let's see, what color should we do? Let's do this orange, kind of, not sure what color this is. It's kind of like a mauve-y rose. And we're just going to create 5 petals. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you could create one on its side. One, I'm just literally making little swoopies here, little circles. You could do several on their side, like so. Another one front facing so you can see the whole thing. Remembering all petals lead back to the center. So picking up some more paint, maybe a few more little side versions, maybe even a bud right here. And I tried to get different angles. So some of my flowers are kind of coming out this way, that way. This one's up there. I think drawing the eye in to these different access points in the flowers creates so much more interest. So let's go into our green paint. I'm going to put a little bit more on there. There we go. And go in and just, while this is wet, I'm going to create some little stems. And look how pretty that is when it blends. That's the beauty of wet on wet. This one is a bud, so I'm going to do a little bit more green on it. Touching in. Look how cute that is. I mean, that is the easiest flower. You could make cards with this. Just really this feeling of playfulness. And I can always go into these with a little darker hue if I want to add some extra interest. So I could touch in like that, maybe in the middle. Some of these aren't wet anymore, but look at that. Isn't that pretty? So really embracing and getting to know how watercolors work and using that quality that watercolors have of spreading and the water really blending things to your advantage. When you get used to how it works, you will love it. So it's just practice. I'm going to grab now, we're going to go back to this flower right here, and I'm going to add some little yellow stamens in there. Okay. So let's just go and dot in just with the tip of my brush. I'm dotting in that white space that we left. Okay. So just doing that, we could even do that in here, although I think in here I'll wait till it dries and go in with a dark Payne's gray and create some little centers in there. So my next flower is a rose, which I love because once you practice this style of rose, you are going to wonder why you never painted these more. So let's use rose. We're going to go traditional here, a red rose. I don't use red too often. And just getting this on my point, and you're going to go pretty thick here because the center of the rose is going to be darker. So what I'm creating here is just these little C strokes with some white space in between them. So I start with a little C stroke, just like that, with really using the tip of my brush. Then I go in, they're kind of opposite, and they're not particularly touching, just like that. Okay? So I've got all these little C strokes. Now I'm going to rinse my brush and then tap it on the paint so it's damp and start moving around this rose and creating these little C strokes, a little bit inside, but not completely closing up and getting rid of all the white spaces. Okay? And you're doing, as you get more on the outside, you're making it bigger C strokes because inside is very tight. As you go around the outer edge, it gets a little bigger. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit more of that red and just tap in to a few of these, just more C strokes. Okay. So there you go. That's a beautiful little rose. Maybe I'll make one a little bigger. Okay. Lots of fun here. There you go. So there you go. I love this rose. I think it's so much fun. Now I'm just going in here and there with some more little C strokes, just touching in. I could even go in there with maybe a little bit of yellowish color or even this orange that I have on my palette here. That would be really pretty. Look at that. And just touching in here and there, letting it kind of blend. Now, this is kind of drying, so I'm not quite getting the blend I would like. So there you go. Okay. So I hope that was fun. Let's maybe draw some leaves on that. Go back to my green here. There we go. And have a couple leaves. I'm just going to do like a dab. Okay. Just roses leaves tend to be a little jaggedy on the edges. So I'm just doing that. And we can certainly do a stem, just using the point of my brush. Something like that. But I really like them coming out of the rose. So there you go. There's a rose. Okay, the next one is my absolute favorite flower in the whole world is a peony. And last year, I kid you not, I must have painted, I don't even know how many. I love them, love them, love them. So I'm going to try and give you my easiest version of a peony. And this is the color I love of the peonies. We have a store out here called Trader Joe's, and they get the most beautiful selection of peonies. So we're going to start with a kind of round brush stroke. I'm using a little bit of the side of my brush. So my brush is kind of horizontal, I'd say about at 2 o'clock. And I'm going to create somewhat of a round brush stroke like that. Okay? Then I'm going to come on this side and create another one. What I'm doing here is I'm creating this bowl, kind of, so to speak. That's kind of what peonies do. They are like this little bowl. And then I'm going to come out from the bowl, kind of like that. So I came with the point, press the side of my leaf there. So everything is kind of coming in towards the center. And you're creating like this cup shape. Now we're going to come in and we're going to, because peonies are real fluffy. So we want to create that fluffiness. So just go around your peony and create kind of this opening. Then we're going to come back and put some little yellow stamens inside of there. But for right now, let's just stick with this. So we've got this bowl, and then we're going to put the stamens inside. Okay? These are so fun. I just love peonies. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and paint the leaves, because again, I love the wet and wet technique. So I'm getting that green like a tea consistency, and I'm just going to create some of these leaves, little stem here, a few more coming out, just making those kind of fluffy too, right? And I'm going to get a little darker green and just dab in while this is wet, right where the leaves come out, and make them just a little bit darker. Like that. Just to add some interest. Okay, just dabbing in. There we go. Okay. So we're going to leave that alone, and we will come back to that peony. I could maybe do another one right here if you like, since I have the room. How about we do like a opera rose peony? I use that color a lot for my peonies. I think that's what was here on my palette. So let's do that. I've got a very watered down hue, and I'm just going to create that again. So I'm creating the first petal is kind of round, and then creating this bowl, okay, on each side, just like that. And then I'm going to go in and have a few more petals coming out from the base. Just like that. Okay. So you've got the beginning of this bowl. Now I'm going to wet my brush, pick up a little bit more paint, and even a stronger version of my opera pink, and I'm just going to touch in to a few areas so I can get a little bit of that spread. Okay, so rinsing my brush off, coming back into my paint, and let's move around, because again, these flowers are really fluffy. So we want to create that fluffiness in them. Okay, and then we will come back and put the yellow in the middle. This one we might be able to do that, but I'm going to create some leaves here before I leave while that's wet. Just like that. Oh, I just love these flowers. Okay, and my stem. So let's see if we can go in here and add those little yellow centers. I'm using a pretty concentrated amount of that yellow. So let's just go in and dot in some of those, just like that. It's okay if it hits a couple spots that it spreads. There you go. And I think I can go in here as well. So there you go. There's some easy little peonies. Just practice those using the side of your brush to make some of these brush strokes. And then as you're ending that brush stroke, you end up on the tip of your brush. Okay, so here it's kind of wide, then you're lifting up and getting the tip of the brush there. So before we move on, I want to go back to these little cuties, and I'm going to add in a tiny bit of my Payne's Gray just into the center. So just some little dots like so. Right here, right there. That one doesn't have one. So that just creates that tiny bit of interest for you. Now look at how beautiful this rose turned out with that water and that blending. Here's the little peonies. So let me think, what should we make for our last flower here? I think I will do the daisy again. I'm hearing from a lot of you that you have daisies. So let's play with that, and we'll do a white daisy again. So I'm going to start with that yellow gold center, which most daisies have, not all. I have purple ones here that have a black center. So I'm just going to do one here. I'm leaving some white. So I'm kind of like a little oval, but yet not completely filled in. Now I'm going to go into my Payne's Gray, which is kind of a bluish gray, not quite a black. And I'm really gonna water that down. So it's just a hint of gray. Let me show you. So when I use it, it's just very, very light, okay? It's the perfect color for creating white leaves. And let's just go in, and I'm going to push down and then kind of just trace a little petal. So push down, kind of trace a little petal here, push down and trace a little petal. Okay, again here, just very lightly, kind of creating a few lines, push down, create a little petal. Really light pressure on the end of my brush, pushing down and then creating that petal, and one more. So it kind of gives this illusion of a white flower. I might go in a little bit more after this dries like that. And then I think for this one, I'll kind of make it like it's sideways. So touching in and creating that petal, kind of coming down. Now, if I didn't like how that just spread into the yellow, I can dry my brush off and lift it up. just like that. So I'm going to keep going on these petals. I'm going to lighten my paint a bit with some more water. Okay. Because I feel like it's a little bit dark. So let's just add a little bit more water. There we go. And create some more. So pushing down, see it went into that again. So I will pick that up, dry my brush, and just pick it up. That's lifting, that's called. So draw my petal here. Pick up a little bit more paint. And dry. So this is coming out a little bit darker than I would like, so I'm going to rinse off some of that paint and start again. Just drawing these little leaves, petals. Okay, now I'm going to go into the center of these with some of my burnt sienna and a little bit of orange. And I'm just going to dab around the edges of that yellow, okay? I kind of used a little bit darker version of this gray because I really wanted you to see it. But if I was painting white daisies, I'd probably use even a more watered down color of that. So let's grab some of our green and create some cute little stems. There we go. Look how cute that is. Now our daisies here kind of have these fringy like leaves on them. So I'm just using the end of my brush to create some little leaves. And the other thing, if you notice, I used more water here and more paint here. So this leaf looks a little bit more in the background, this in the front ground. So I'll make another leaf here. And let's just make that fringy leaf like so. Okay, so you've got this push and pull, and then maybe just some little grass sticking out here and there. And there you go. You've got an easy little daisy flower with some cute leaves. So I hope these were some fun options for you. I love the peonies. I think, you know, you can always go back in these and add a little bit darker petals, but I think they're just fine the way they are too. So I hope these inspired you and gave you some ideas. If you'd like to see one whole tutorial on something, please let me know. And I've got some great tutorials on the wet and wet techniques. If you want to check that out, I will try and link it in the description. I can link this brush if you want. It's really kind of nothing special. I just wanted to try it out. And I use all Winsor Newton paints. And if you have any questions, grab my free ebook too. It's kind of a work in progress, but it is kind of pretty. And I will see you all soon. I hope you enjoyed this. Okay, thank you so much.